I would compare us to like a small investment bank for real estate transactions. So, my name is Viktor Ruben Wandemar. I've been in Spain now, active in the real estate sector in the south of Spain, Marbella, Malaga, for about 4.5 years now. I have a background in finance. As an entrepreneur, I started a online trading company. The company that I run is Bosque Colina. And Bosque Colina is, obviously, you speak Spanish, means wooden hill. And that is why, because some of the owners are also the founders of the company Wooden Hill in Sweden. Wooden Hill is a real estate investor / developer. Been building approximately 1,000 dwellings over the last few years in Sweden, based in Gothenburg, but have projects in Stockholm and Norrköping and several different cities in Sweden. But we moved down to Spain, some of the operation through the brand of Bosque Colina, to do more or less what Wooden Hill have managed to do very successfully in Sweden over the last years. And that is to bring a broad knowledge about the market, a lot of know-how in-house. To create for Bosque Colina, it's been more focusing on high-end properties in the city of Malaga over the last years. And that is catering to the obviously Northern European market. We have a lot of clients ourselves from Sweden, but then of course we work with all the agents on the coast to attract buyers from, you know, all the usual suspects: Germans, French, Dutch, Holland, you know, Belgium, all of these.
Your projects at the moment are in Malaga, is that correct?
That is correct.
The city.
Yes. The ones that we are doing under our own brand, so to speak, the Bosque Colina brand, that's been focused mainly on Malaga. So we have a few projects in there. We are developing. We bought some of these old buildings in the Centro Historical, 100 years old buildings that has huge potential. They're in very great locations, but obviously they need total refurbishment. It's more like a new production, more or less. You keep the facade and you blow out everything inside.
Why do you guys pick Malaga City? I mean, I'm glad that you did, but it's unusual, no? Most Northern European firms that are coming in the real estate market or the development market here in the Costa del Sol tend to gravitate towards Marbella.
Yeah.
Why Malaga City?
Well, basically, we have our roots. I'm from Stockholm myself, but the company Wooden Hill, the roots they are in Gothenburg in Sweden. And Gothenburg is a very interesting city. It's a growing city. It's one of the top cities in Sweden, obviously, after Stockholm. And they have Gothenburg have a lot of similarities to Malaga, actually, because Gothenburg is also a harbor city. So before it was a lot of harbor labor, similar to Malaga. But Gothenburg, as Malaga, has gone through a great transformation over a lot of years. But we see that Malaga has not quite yet been through that development, but it started. So we identify the market in Malaga as a market for the future, because it's a city, it's on Costa del Sol, so you have all the weather benefits and the climate and the high quality of life. But we see just now in the last years that the city is gaining a lot of traction, both internationally, but also domestically from other cities in Spain. So we believe that Malaga is going to be a market for the future where you can live and have the quality of life as in Marbella, but still you will be in a city. And then Marbella is great. I love Marbella personally. I guess all of us do. But I mean, for people that like culture, for an example, there's not much culture in Marbella. Whereas in Malaga, you have all the museums and all the history, and the city is breathing a lot of history going way back to the Romans. So that is very attractive, I think.
So you build, develop, commercialize the full thing. Is that right?
We contract, so we are more of the higher level.
So you're the developer, but not the builder. Is that right?
Yeah, we see ourselves as the producer.
Right. Okay. Talk to me a little bit about the investment side of things. I'm not really seeing any companies positioning themselves as a vehicle to supply investors with a service of that sort.
Well, I mean, our background is in finance, in entrepreneurship, in startup companies. I mean, our team is based of people that have many years of experience in starting up companies, taking companies public, working with finance, working in banking. So for us, it was a natural step or a natural path for us to package different investment opportunities and to supply the whole chain. So what we do very, very detailed analysis of all the projects, obviously, that we invest into. And for us, it's been a journey where we have analyzed 200 plus projects over the last 4 years. And that is the name of the game for us. We're very picky. So we look at 100 projects, and maybe out of those, we will pick 2 of them that is interesting and attractive enough to actually do it.
Is the investor investing in a sort of fund per se, or where you guys then go and invest in various different units, or is it a direct investment where you offer them a unit to invest in and they buy it? Just explain that distinction.
Yes, we have actually done both models, and now we are moving more and more into the fund structure of things. In the beginning, we more or less identified attractive investment opportunities, and then we packaged them to our network of investors. So at that stage, they were investing in the project. Then we set up the company structure to handle it. We usually have a holding company or an owner company in Sweden. And then we have a subsidiary in Spain that is 100% owned by the company in Sweden. And the investors, they invest in the company in Sweden. We send the money down, and we do the project here in Spain.
So do the investments go into any projects that are not your own, or only your own projects?
Well, actually, we have several hats on. We have the developer hat, but we also have the fund manager hat, or the financial advisor hat, and also the transaction manager hat. So we are actually advising investors to invest in other projects as well. We are also contracted to find specific type of investment opportunities for clients, not only Swedish clients, but from several different countries. They have their criteria. Let's say they want to find a hotel to operate, and they have this certain budget that they have more or less, they know more or less where on the coast they want to be based. But then we provide the whole package. We give them a very, very detailed market analysis. We look at several different projects. We do the analysis and the calculations for each of the projects, and then we present. So they can pick and choose out of the basket of opportunities that we present.
According to your analysis, what are the hot areas of investment at the moment within the coast? Are there any particular neighborhoods?
Interesting questions. Absolutely. And as you know, during the pandemic, Malaga has been, unfortunately, quiet, very, very quiet. It's been more or less dead since March of 2020, when the pandemic hit for real. So that is a pity, but we think within the time here in the future, the Malaga market is definitely going to recover. But the market that is where it's happening now, it's obviously Marbella. That is where we see the capital flows going through, and I don't think that's a strange thing, because Marbella has its own sort of brand internationally. Marbella attracts buyers and investors from, I don't know, 140 plus countries, more or less. You have the Russians, you have the Arabs, you have all of Europe, you have South America, North America. I mean, it's globally known as a hotspot, not only for high quality of life, but also to investors, real estate investors in the last years. So what we've seen now during the pandemic, and I think you could agree with that, is that the transaction volume in Marbella has been obviously lower, but to compare with what's been going on in Malaga and with Marbella, it's 2 different worlds. In Marbella, there's still high demand. I don't think that's strange, because the financial politics of the world now, it's been back since the financial crisis of 2008, when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt and all that followed. The financial politics of the world has been to more or less just pump in liquidity to the market. They have been creating money out of thin air for many years now, and the European Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, and more or less all of the other central banks have been putting money straight into the system. They did it to recover the markets after the crash in '08 and '09. And they did it more or less successfully. If you look at what's been going on in the stock market, we had an incredible bull run, more or less, since the recovery. And when the pandemic hit, there was no way for them to turn back. I mean, interest rates, they were already at more or less zero. And to tackle the pandemic, they had to just keep on doing what they've been doing, but they had to accelerate that activity. So they are pumping in, I mean, ridiculous amount of money in the system, in the markets now. And you can see from the stock market just this year, I mean, we had a big dip back in March, April, but the recovery since then, it's been ridiculous. And if you talk to the ordinary people on the street, the stock prices doesn't reflect their life and their view of how things are going at this moment. And that is sad, because it means the segregation today is much, much bigger than it was a year ago. The people that had money already, you know, back in 2019, they are wealthier today than they were before the pandemic, while the people that had tighter economic circumstances, they are in a worse position than they were. So the gap is getting more wider and wider. And that is obviously good for the market in Marbella, because the buyer of a villa for 2 million or 3 million euros in Marbella, he had a lot of money before the crisis, and most likely he have more, or she more money today. Why? Because the liquidity that the central banks are pumping into the system, it's going mostly into the stock market. I mean, the Federal Reserve and the central banks, they are buying assets directly as well. So they don't let the market go down. As soon as you see a dip in the market now, they are there. Today we have a small dip in the market, actually. And yesterday it was a bit volatile, and we had a 1.5% drop in the S&P 500 in the afternoon. And I'm pretty sure that if this sort of short-term downturn would continue now for a few days, we would hear the central banks, we would hear the governments talk about new big stimulus packages just to calm the market down. And I think that is how it's have to continue, because if they would loosen that, or if they would tighten that financial that sort of strategy, that politics now, I think the market would panic, and no one wants that. So from my perspective, this is something that has to continue. And because of that, I think we're going to have a great bull run in stocks in the coming years. And I think we're going to have a great boom in the market in Marbella, but also in the Costa del Sol. But I think it's going to take a bit longer for the rest of the coast to go there, because it's just crazy amounts of money out there, and the money is flowing in the direction of those that have assets, they have stocks, and they have these kind of assets that are benefiting from this politics.
So the rich are getting richer.
The rich are getting richer, unfortunately. In the long run, I don't think it's going to hold up. I think it's bound to be a systematic change, a huge systematic change, once the firepower is all used up. I mean, it can't go on forever. But I think we have something like 5 years ahead that's going to be an incredible bull run in stocks and also in real estate.
So anybody that's forecasting in the next 12 months or so that the markets are gonna the real estate market is gonna be hit very heavily by the economic consequences of what is still happening, you would say that in the higher end sectors of the real estate, so where the buyer is more on the wealthier side of the spectrum, that is probably, in your opinion, not going to be the case, because the economic effect is more on the mid to lower range income brackets. Have I understood that correctly?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, and that is Spain. In Sweden, for an example, we had a great year in real estate, 2020. The market for individual homes, it's been going up like this. I think in villas, it's been an increase in 10% in price during 2020, and also apartments have been going up.
We've seen that in many of the countries where the the real estate. Certainly, we're talking about the coastal resorts of Spain, so the Costa del Sol, Costa Blanca, where a large percentage of the buyer is a second home buyer. Even the national market, a large percentage of them are it's a holiday home as opposed to primary residence. One of the things that is getting a lot of conversation at the moment, because of the changes to working practices, and perhaps those changes aren't so marked within the luxury sector, the higher end sector, is the blurring of the lines between primary and secondary residences because of the working from home aspect, where it doesn't really matter that much where you are as before. And that's perhaps where places like Malaga and the Costa del Sol generally, which has a very good communication with the rest of Europe and has the climate and is on the same time zone, that will actually support the market and improve it on its own accord. Do you see that sort of thing yourself?
Definitely. I've noticed it among friends, among investors, among buyers during the last year. That my wife, for an example, she's a web developer. She worked for one of the huge US companies, but she's employed in Sweden because they have a subsidiary that they bought in Stockholm. And she's been working from home ever since she started. She started a few months ago. She met her colleagues once, I think, at a Friday drink in the city,
right.
Not even for work. So that is something that's going to accelerate, I think, as well, because this video meeting kind of thing, it's really working. It's effective. Now I'm in Sweden and you're in Spain. I mean, it's perfect. We can do this.
Yeah, it makes no difference, does it? Nowadays. I think the time zone is probably the only thing, isn't it? You know, if someone's in Uruguay or somewhere, it might be a bit tricky to catch up with people in Europe at the right times. But that's always been the case, even with stock markets, where people have to wake up at 3 a.m. to get in time for the Nikkei or whatever. So when you said that the hot areas for investors will continue to be Marbella, and in the medium term, when recovery comes back, Malaga is a very interesting prospect. Are there any specific areas within Marbella you've identified as particularly hot, or next to Marbella, you know, you decide Estepona, Mijas Costa? Is any info that you can give us from your studies?
Marbella, if you look at Nueva Andalusia, where all the Swedish people tend to be, among others, of course, that is obviously very, very hot. But the market has been going up for quite some time, and it's been going up. It's been rising quite aggressively. So it's not easy to get in a foot and make a good deal there to invest. However, we've been noticing now in the effects of the pandemic that some sellers, are more motivated to sell. And now with the second, or what is it, third lockdown going on, most likely there will be opportunities in the Nueva Andalusia market, and that is a market where you can sell quite fast because demand is high there. But also, I would say that Benavis is very interesting. The area of La Quinta, I've noticed high demand from North and South American buyers in La Quinta. But also, if you go up in the mountains, the neighborhoods of El Madroñal and also La Zagaleta seem to be going through a bit of a rebirth in some way, because before it was a lot of old money up in La Zagaleta. It's one of Europe's most exclusive urbanizations. But now, when there is so much money in the market, and the new era of tech billionaires popping up here and there, there's so much money, so that we see a high demand growing in areas like Zagaleta as well, where we talk huge investments, and the purchase prices are very, very high. So I would say the best market, if you can find an opportunity in Nueva Andalusia, it's a great investment.
But you work with you work with estate agents?
We do, yeah.
What's your relationship with them? So I understand that.
I love those guys. They're so positive.
Yeah. But do you work mainly with Scandinavian estate agents, or with everybody?
No, we try to work with. I mean, we have contact with all of them, I would say, personal contact in one way or another. But we are, of course, the Swedish ones and the Scandinavians ones we know them a bit better because we have the same culture, and we talking to them more, but there is international players that I think are very, very good. They do a great job, and they have a broad network that the Scandinavian players most of the times don't have. So we are when we do a project now, for an example, we are looking to invest in Marbella. We're looking at several projects at the moment, and we're raising funds to execute on them, and then we will pick one agent per project that will be involved. We prefer that the agent actually is investing with us a little bit, nothing big, but just to get some skin in the game, so that we know that they are 100% committed to do their best and get as much as possible out of the sale.
So you're raising the funds for a project in Marbella. What sort of, is it the sort of, do you have a thing in mind, a particular kind of project in mind? Would it likely to be a villa project, for example, or?
Yes. We notice now that the villas, they are the most hot ones. The buyers, as I mentioned before, the buyers for these products above 2 million euros and above, they are.
Are you looking to invest in an existing product development or build one as a developer?
Actually, at this point, we are raising funds to, not for a specific project, but to have dry powder in the bazooka, so that we will, and we are always scanning the market for good opportunities. But ideally, in a market like this, because it's moving quite fast, when good product hit the market, they are selling fast if it's good. So it's very important that you can act right away.
So you have the funds ready to move as soon as it becomes available.